Alright, let me show you what I've been cooking for the last 3 months. I got a brand new weapon added to the game and a ton of visual updates. So, let's get started. The revolver is the second weapon that a player can access in God of Terra. Here you can see its high poly version in Blender, and here's how it looks like in its low poly state when viewed in engine. From the very beginning I decided that all weapons in God of Terra should have kind of edgy names with very strong religious overtones on top of it. For example, the very first weapon you can use in God of Terra is this crossbow, and its name is Redemption. I know, real edgy. Now, the new weapon is called Judgment, which is where all this iconography you can see is coming from. So I had this weapon prepped, added some visual effects and animations, and so here's how it looks, feels and sounds when you use this weapon in a game. Oh, did I forget to mention? You actually get to play with two of these at the same time. Also, I thought it would be an interesting gimmick to give player independent control over each revolver. Basically, if you press the left mouse button, you can fire the left revolver, and if you press the right mouse button, you can fire the right revolver. So you can shoot them one at a time to preserve ammo in your magazine. Go left, right for this classic akimbo shooting style. Or if you time your button presses accurately, you can shoot them both at the same time for a more controlled recoil. And the reload for each revolver is continuous, so you can always interrupt it if, for example, you need to get out of danger while still getting a partial reload. So this is the base version of the weapon. Now we can take it to 11 with all the weapon upgrades. But first, let me show you how the weapon upgrade tree looks like after all the visual updates that I made to it. This is the old upgrade tree. And by the way, this one here is only for the first weapon. Now, let me tell you why I decided to scrap it entirely and start from scratch. See, I've never done any serious 2D art or drawings in my entire life. So when I started learning game dev and working on God of Terra, I basically just defaulted to using AI for my 2D assets. At the very least until I'm able to afford to pay the actual artist to do those. However, when it came time to put together a Steam page, I needed a game logo for the capsule art and to promote the game in general, and AI art just doesn't cut it. So I got myself a sketchpad, downloaded Krita, watched a few YouTube tutorials, and started playing around. And after about 50 hours of trial and error, I had this. Now, it's not gonna win any art competitions, but I think it came out okay. And with that, I pretty much had more confidence to do my own 2D assets. Now, for the upgrade trees, I wanted to make everything very pictographic, such that each image can be reduced to the very small size on the screen, while still being clear and discernible. The best example of this is of course the granddaddy of all upgrade trees from Diablo, where each image can be cast in a simple black and white, while still conveying important information about each ability. So I picked up my digital pen and started sketching. And these are the icons that I was able to come up with. Some of them came out a little worse, so I may need to redesign them in the future, but overall I'm quite happy with the result. Now that I had all these icons ready, I arranged them in upgrade trees for the two weapons that I currently have in the game. I think this is a much cleaner and better look than what I had before, and it also gives me room to add another upgrade tree for the third and final weapon that I will have in the game. And now let's look at what all these upgrades actually do. Similar to the crossbow, the upgrade tree for the revolver has small perks that give incremental upgrades to the weapon, and large perks that fundamentally change the weapon's behavior. For the crossbow, small perks were adding punch through to each shot. For the revolver, small perks are simply giving you more damage. For the large perks, let's start with the left branch. Judge is the easiest perk to unlock on the left branch. While its effect is not very flashy, it's pretty useful. All it does, it doubles your reload speed, so you go from this to this. Now, Jury is a bit more interesting. Remember the Doom guy? Remember his best weapon, the super shotgun? Remember what it has two of? Yeah, so I just gave each revolver a second barrel. Now, if you shoot them together, you get some quadruple A justice. Now, having two barrels on each revolver is pretty useful, but you also run out of ammo twice as fast. So, for the Executioner perk, I just strapped an ammo belt to each gun. Now you can blast away at your heart's content. The right branch is where you get to upgrade your bullets. Hold the Ground is the perk that makes it easier to stagger large enemies. Now, at the moment this perk does nothing, because I'm currently in the process of redesigning my enemies and I haven't had a chance to revamp the stagger system yet. However, I would likely have some visible or invisible stagger meter, similar to what you have in games like Elden Ring, and then this perk will allow you to fill up the meter twice as fast. Nova is the perk that gives you explosive ammunition. Now each shot deals additional damage through explosions and splash damage to nearby enemies. Very useful for dealing with crowds. Here is how it looks when a normal bullet hits the ground. And here is how the explosive ammo looks. Now, let's see how this ammo reacts when hitting enemies. Here's normal ammo. And here's explosive. That's odd. The enemy just disappears. Probably a bug. Anyway, the last perk, Supernova, simply makes your explosions larger. And here's the comparison side by side of how the based version and a fully upgraded version can handle a horde of enemies. Another part of the game that I decided to revamp are all of the enemies. In the demo version, I currently have 3 enemy types. 2 melee enemies, 1 weak and 1 strong, and 1 weak ranged enemy. Now that I'm gearing up to making all the remaining enemies for the game, I thought it would be a good idea to go through the existing ones and see if I can come up with a workflow that gives me better results than what I have right now. See, when I was making these enemies, I still only started learning game dev, which means that every aspect of these enemy assets I can do much better now. From visuals to animations to behavior and optimization, all of these features can use some improvement. And so I set out to do this, starting with Darkling. Now the first step was to give it a new coat of paint. I was generally happy with the way the model came out, but I thought it can use additional details. And so I played with some displacement maps and textures in Blender, and here was the result. I think it looks much better now, almost like some kind of a lava monster. Once you get the low poly version into the engine, it loses a bit of bumpiness, but still retains the look. I also added these teeny chittering teeth to make it a bit more creepy. For the animations, I decided to make it mainly a quadruped, so it can run around on all fours. Look at him go. Who's a good boy? For the attack animation, Darkling will jump on you, making it a perfect opportunity for the player to blast it from the air. Now, you also may have noticed that I added some physics to this combat. You may think that the amount of pushback that these enemies experience is a bit too high. Well, this is your opinion and you're entitled to this. I think the amount of pushback here is very reasonable. Anyways, with respect to the optimization, I made the AI for these enemies much dumber. But now you can have many more of these buggers in the scene without too high of a drag on the CPU. See, the main goal for having these weak enemies is to fit into the power of gameplay by allowing the player to blast hordes of them. So I don't really care if the AI for these enemies is dumb, so long as these enemies can walk into the player's crosshair and don't break the game in any way. Now, after getting Darkling to the stage where I was happy with it, I moved to my ranged enemy that I called Spitter. Now, here the old version was really falling flat. Not only was it just a recolor of the melee enemy, but it also had some pretty broken animations. I really needed to make this enemy feel more distinct, so I went ahead and made a brand new model for it, and here is how its high poly version looks in Blender. It ended up being this kind of a swamp monster with tentacles for the face, and I think it looks kinda cute. So I had the low poly version made, threw it into the engine, got those tentacles moving, and so I had a brand new look for the enemy. And here's how it looks and behaves when in combat. It will shoot at you from the safe distance and will try to run away when the player is near. Those are the only two enemies I've revamped so far, but I think the pipeline for making them works pretty well, so I will definitely continue using it in the future. There was something I had to do in the game which was a bit of a painful decision. I had to basically delete every asset in my environment and start building the environment from scratch. Now, there are a few reasons for that. One being that these environments were the very first things that I built when I started learning game dev. Not only that I can do everything much better now, but also God of Terra was a completely different game in my mind at the time. Believe it or not, I originally planned to make a real-time strategy with tower defense elements. Now that I am fully aligned on making a linear third-person shooter, the layout of the initial area doesn't make a lot of sense. However, the biggest reason why I decided to start from scratch is performance. This environment just doesn't run very well. The example I'm showing here is captured on RTX 5080, and I'm still barely able to squeeze out 45 FPS out of it. Now, this is on highest graphics settings and with ultra widescreen. However, I still want someone with this kind of hardware to be able to run my game at 60 plus FPS. Now, the next portion of the video will get a little bit technical, but I still think it's important to talk about this, especially since video game optimization and performance is on everyone's mind these days. With the old environment, I'm really at a loss as to what is dragging the performance down. There are so many things that I've thrown together when I was just experimenting with the engine and learning it, so that it will take a ton of time to debug it and profile it. At this point, I also have a pretty decent idea, or at least I think I am, on how to use all the cool features that Unreal has in a proper and efficient way. So, in building my environment from scratch, I can now ensure that each new asset that I'm bringing in is properly curated, so that the nanite is built for it, all of the textures are virtual, the use of translucency and mask materials is limited, all of the distance fields are properly generated, and all of my materials are properly instanced from just a few master materials. Now, if it all sounded like a word salad to you, don't worry. All I'm trying to do is to make sure my assets play nice with Lumen and Nanite for best look and performance. I also just worked through what I think is a good pipeline for going from Plant Factory to Blender to create custom trees and grasses that are preconditioned to be used with Nanite. Now, I'm still very new to game dev and Unreal, so what I've decided to do now is to use all of these workflows and the rules I just described to build up all of my environments for the game. I have a total of 6 biomes planned for the game, and hopefully I can make all of them interconnected with no loading screens in between. Now, whether or not I can achieve it, I don't know. But for the next few months I will be doing this experiment while constantly checking the performance of my game. Hopefully for the next devlog I will be able to show you some beautiful vistas all running at a good frame rate. Just as a teaser, here are a few areas where I already started working on. This is how the canyon biome will look like, and I even had some decent result with making this little grotto with the light coming from glowing crystals and the hole in the ceiling. Now, if you want to try the God of Terra for yourself, the demo is available on Steam. While this demo doesn't have all of the new features that I just described in this video, it's a good representation of the state of the game as of February 2025, when it was around 8 months into the development. If you end up playing the demo, I would really appreciate some feedback. While I don't have a separate Steam page for the demo yet, feel free to leave a comment on any of my social media, or you can fill out the Google form, which is linked in the description. Speaking of social media, as of the last month I also have a presence on Instagram, so if you like this platform more, make sure to follow me there. On Instagram I'll be posting screenshots from the game and also splitting these large devlogs into more bite-sized pieces. Now I'll get back to work and I should have another devlog for you in a few months. If you would like to get notified about it, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. One last thing that I would like to start doing for these devlogs is to also showcase the music of God of Terra. So what I'll start doing from now on is I'll leave one of the themes from the game playing at the end of the video. There will be no content from this point, so if you're not interested, you are welcome to tune out. However, if you are interested, you're welcome to stay a while and listen to some of my tunes. The theme that I'll be playing for this devlog is called The Long Night, and this is the music for the main menu. Until next time, bye.